Um, yeah, I don't think there's really much to say right now. I mean, I got a lot of viewers on my last video, and I don't know. I'm really frustrated with the last Spider-Man movie. I guess the most recent Spider-Man movie, not the last Spider-Man movie. That one was okay, and I thought it signaled a new direction, but I just wanted to talk more about that Spider-Man 3 2 situation and why I think it sucks, why I think it's the worst movie of all time, and just why I think it's indicative of the death of cinema and essentially why this kind of movie making is killing movies. Um, there's no creativity there. I'm just gonna go back to the beginning and try to be as fair as possible. Um, Maybe even make this into a series. I don't know, but I want to compare this movie, Spider-Man: No Way Home from 2021, to a movie that came out now almost 20 years ago, Spider-Man by Sam Raimi from 2002. Um, I think the biggest difference is just the passion level. Um, Sam Raimi was creating a movie first. He wasn't trying to create a tie-in. He wasn't trying to use nostalgia based on other actors from other films reprising similar roles or trying to make the same actors come back for the same roles. It wasn't about crossovers. It wasn't about trying to see the next movie, tease the next event, tee up what other directors had planned, what the studio had planned. It was about trying to create the most entertaining and most interesting film that he could create personally. Um, the most interesting movie, the most compelling characters, the best actors with the best chemistry and interplay between them all. And I think that's lost on this newest movie. I think that's lost on the MCU as a whole. Every movie since Iron Man has been trying to build to something, tease something, set something up, get people excited about what's going to happen after the movie you're watching now. But no one can ever appreciate what they have right in front of them because there's nothing to what's right in front of us as viewers when we watch the new MCU films, the new DC films. Maybe with the exception of Aquaman, the original Wonder Woman, these movies don't really mean anything. They don't want to mean anything, which I think is even worse. They're not trying to be good. They're not trying to be thought provoking. They're not trying to be interesting. They're just trying to be entertaining. And that definition is broad. TikTok is entertaining. Snooki was entertaining in her time. Pornography is entertaining, but what about creating something interesting? What about making characters interesting within the confines of their own film, finding other interesting characters and allowing these people to interact with each other and teach each other new things about the human condition? Um, the reason why superhero comics became popular in the first place, the reason why Spider-Man reached such a broad audience when he was first introduced in the 60s is because he was able to take the human experience and blow it up to these titanic proportions. Being a superhero wasn't the most important part of Spider-Man's life. It was trying to pay the rent, it was trying to help Aunt May, it was trying to maintain a regular social life, still date, still keep up with his job, still get to class on time. And I don't think the movies are about that. I don't think the characters are what matters in Marvel films. Definitely not now, but maybe it mattered at one point. I think it got away from them as we continued to reward the more ridiculous and more bombastic, cartoonish elements of superhero movies. We started to get more of it. Um, I think Infinity War and Endgame were a tipping point. If you want to go back even further, it could be Star Wars: The Force Awakens was a tipping point. Um, that movie was completely trash, and meant nothing. It made no sense, and it only was meant to get people excited about watching a Star Wars product. Not an interesting movie, not a visionary indie pick made by a man partially funding it out of his own pocket, trying to bring his own crazy world to life based on Joseph Campbell's stories and distillations of the hero's journey. It was just a corporate money grab. It didn't matter if the plot didn't make sense. Didn't matter if the lead character was, uh, I don't know, infallible, invincible, vacuous, vapid, um, boring. They just wanted you to have a Star Wars product because they purchased the Star Wars IP, and Disney wanted to make sure the brand was alive in people's minds. In much the same way, this Spider-Man movie is only coming out because a release date was decided, and something needed to fill up cinemas in 2021, pandemic or not. And I feel like the pandemic could have been a time for reflection, a time to push movies further than ever before, but instead movies have collapsed, become rushed, lost their focus, and gotten worse than ever before. I think this new Spider-Man movie is particularly indicative of that. It was more focused on filming cameos for Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. It wasn't interested in actually challenging audiences. It wasn't interested in introducing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield as sympathetic characters within this film. They weren't even meant to directly represent the characters as they were last seen in 2007, or maybe it was 2006, Spider-Man 3 came out, and in 2014 when Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out. These characters were basically brought in as SNL sketch versions of themselves. I think Beyond the Trailer mentioned this on her channel, and it's pretty much spot on. The characters aren't themselves anymore. Um, the director doesn't care. The studios don't care. They just want you to have a shot of nostalgia. Um, to a certain degree, we're living in Aldous Huxley's Brave New World now. We're just narcotized, and we watch mindless entertainment to distract ourselves from the world outside of that mindless entertainment. Um, I'm not completely sure what this movie's supposed to mean. It's so cynical. It's a remake of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but all the characters are reverse race swap because Tom Holland is a ripoff of Miles Morales and Ned is a ripoff of Yankee, and I really don't understand the dynamic between these two films, considering one is vastly superior and came out way before the other, but for some reason everyone felt compelled to retread the same ground. I think if you just look back at Sam Raimi's history, he was coming from a different place, he was cut from a different cloth. He even made Darkman back in the 90s as kind of a Batman Superman synthesis character, Liam Neeson being a darker Batman, darker Spawn, darker character like the Crow, and then Frances McDormand playing that plucky, intrepid reporter like a Lois Lane. So his love for comics was deep and his love for film was deep. And he came into this Spider-Man world creating Peter Parker as a proxy for himself. Tobey Maguire isn't really likable. He doesn't really have that chemistry, and that's what makes him so much fun. He's an everyman. He could be you. He could be me. He's an awkward guy. His voice was different. His voice was strange, kind of had an interesting cadence, and they mostly did away with it for this movie, um, which was perplexing, but it's just par for the course. Characters weren't meant to represent anything but brands. Um, they're just symbols. They weren't individuals meant to interact. The story wasn't approached from a perspective of challenging audiences and showing them things they'd never seen before, bringing action to life like a Mad Max Free Road or The Raid 2, or challenging you philosophically like a Chainsaw Man. The movie's meant to reassure you. It's meant to make you feel good. Um, it's never meant to push you outside of your comfort zone. Um, you're just getting a warm nostalgia hug the whole time, and it's 2.5 hours of a nostalgia hug. it wants you to be fully narcotized, put to sleep, um, and given this, I don't know, comic book lullaby so you don't critically assess what's going on in the movie. Um, Even from a music perspective, from a costume perspective, Danny Elfman was brought in originally as an homage to the original Batman film in 1989, not because it was dictated by the studio, but because Sam Raimi had a love for the medium. He understood that where Blade started, where X-Men left off, he had to pick up and he had to bring people something revelatory. He took the elements that James Cameron had in his movie because, of course, there were creative differences before Edgar Wright got fired from Ant-Man, and he took it the rest of the way. Sam Raimi was the right guy because he understood how to create that balance between the comic book spectacle and creating a hero with heart that could resonate beyond that one movie. And that's the most confusing element of this. Tom Holland doesn't resonate as a character alone. They need to put Iron Man in the movie. They need to put Benedict Cumberbatch in the movie, Samuel Jackson in the movie. They never want to let Tom Holland struggle and find the character. He could be a great actor. He could be a great Spider-Man. There's no way to know. They won't let us know. They'd rather make as much money as possible and never risk alienating China. Even though a famous tennis player there was just kidnapped. But the priority is creating something broad, entertaining for the masses, entertaining for the entire world, at the cost of making something truly interesting, truly never before seen, truly something that could only happen in a movie theater. Everything you see could be done at home. It's all computer generated. You could stay at home, play Spider-Man on your PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5, and enjoy everything exactly the same way. You'd even be more immersed because you could move Spider-Man around yourself. Maybe that's where entertainment is headed as a whole. Maybe we can't avoid the fact that at the end of the day, this is all going to become more subjective, more about placating the viewer, less about challenging them, making them grow up, teaching them a new lesson, and showing them the full potential of superheroes. Um, Maybe it's just meant to be average. Maybe it's never meant to aspire for more and truly teach us, um, help us to grow and become heroes ourselves that fight the challenges we have to face every day. Thank you for listening to me talk. Hopefully, you'll leave a comment and correspond with me. Hope you have a great rest of your night.